Hi and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, thanks for having a look. For those that are returning, great to have you back. Yes, we are quite a few episodes in now, and yes, you may have noticed the bonnet is on the car. Yes, it is good to start getting some panels on it. It will be followed by more very soon. However, this one at the moment is only on there really to get it out of the way and also to help keep dust and moisture out from under the bonnet, even though we're inside. So without further ado, let's get going. So in the background in the last few days, I've been busy getting this wiring sorted out. It is a bit of a tedious task, particularly with this because of the adaptation from the later model body to the earlier version wiring. And what I had done was made up this little bracket here to hold the fuse box in, because the bracket from the version 4 doesn't fit the version 1 fuse box. They're a different size. However, when you look from this side here, you can see that the fuse box is too close to the accelerator pedal for my liking. So what I think I'm going to do is make up a new bracket and try and shift this over a little bit further if I can. The limitation is the wiring at the back, so I'll have to do something about making a bracket up for that as well and get that over so it's in by the front leg of the cage, more closer to the door and further out of the way. All right, that's all that sorted out now, and there's a lot more clearance to the throttle pedal there, so that's good. Made up that nice little bracket there. To do this properly, you're supposed to use these two gadgets here. They're called spring compressors. Alright, happy days. Alright, beautiful. So then you just pull that, and that's it. That's the spring out. Now, with these, it's always best to whack a heap of grease in there. It just helps the struts to slide onto the hub a bit easier with a bit of grease in it, and then the bolts will go through easier as well. Alright, I'll feed that up. Thankfully with this, because we've got no brake lines in it, you don't have to worry about wrestling around brake lines, and no ABS wires and stuff like that as well. That all tends to float around in there in the way sometimes. Just get a coat of paint over those the cage, the pads in there while this is all out. Otherwise get rusty plates. Now with these, the trick is the bottom bolt goes in that way and the top bolt goes in the other way.
I'm sure the snakers are all over the place now.
Yeah.
Every time I take them out,
That's alright. It's not a big drama. It's just with these, because of where the drive shaft is, you can't get the bolt in. I've seen a few people do that where they, with the drive shafts out, and yeah, exactly. But they don't have the drive shaft or the CV in, put the bolt in that way on the bottom, and then that's fine, but then you can't get it out after. You've got to cut it out or take the drive shaft out and the CV out and that. So, yeah. Now, obviously these rotors are pretty rusty. However, they're actually not in too bad a condition, so we will reuse these rotors. These calipers also are not in the best condition. They've had a little bit of water through them and a fair bit of heat. So I'm going to use these calipers just for the time being to make sure. The reason I'm bolting these on, dummy bolting them on, no pads in at the moment, is so when we run the brake lines through in the near future, we've got something to connect them up to, all the lines. When we did open the calipers and check them all, they are actually, the pistons are moving quite freely in there. So we might actually be able to use those for reuse them on the car. Obviously, change things like the boots here. The slides have got a little bit sad in there, so I'm not sure which. I've got a few sets of these, so we'll find a set that's better than these when we go through, or we'll reuse these. Either way, whack the calipers back on. Righto, front shafts, same trick as the rears. I've already put some grease on this, so we'll just spread all that grease around. Always a good idea. These splines can get very rusty if they've been sitting around for a while, so plenty of grease on them. Now, pretty much on the GCs, all the shafts are the same. The splines, the length of the nose, all that's the same. The only real difference is that some shafts have ABS, so they've actually got a ring around the outside edge of the outer CV, and some don't have ABS. This is a non-ABS shaft. This is actually an ABS hub. However, we're not running ABS in this car, so there's no need to worry about it. So it's pretty easy. Normally, I wouldn't have the hub off to do this. It would normally be a job that would be done with the usually drop the ball joint off the bottom and leave everything else connected. However, we've got the struts out of this to do the springs, so while it's out, it's just as easy, and I don't have to disconnect the bottom ball joint again. Now, the other thing you don't want to do with these is over tighten them. Occasionally, people get really, really overzealous and just keep rattling them up until they're too tight. Now, the correct way to do this is the bottom bolt goes in that way. And the top one goes in from the back. This is also the camber adjusting. Now that the struts are all sorted out and the drive shafts are in, basically all the drive lines done, we're on to sorting out the brakes, or what we're going to do with them. And yes, I do know that I do need to put split pins in the tie rod end, so please don't put it in the comments. I need to get the correct split pins for that. Right, what we're going to use is, I talked about this in a previous episode, these very flash. Somebody's gone to the effort of painting these red. These are the Subaru Sumitomo 4-pot cast iron calipers. They are pretty much the biggest brakes that you can get under a 15-inch wheel, and we're limited to 15-inch because that's the largest size rally tyres, diameter rally tyres that are made worldwide. Even at World Rally level, 15 inches is it. So these brakes are actually quite effective. They work very well. These came off another car. I don't know when. I got these quite a while ago, but they are really good brakes. They use a larger rotor. Normally on these cars, I would put a brand new rotor on. I wouldn't use a second-hand one. However, this has got lots of meat on it. They almost look like brand new, to be honest. They've hardly got any wear at all in them, and they are also slotted as well. So we will use these rotors and they'll be perfectly fine. The pads look like brand new pads, or certainly hardly any wear on the pads at all. I don't know what pads these are yet. I will pull these out at a later point and investigate that. And if needs be, we'll put some performance race pads in if these are too aggressive, or they have too high a heat range for what we want. Effectively, with rally sprints, autocross, carnicross type stuff, you don't need to use a race brake pad. With this size caliper and rotor, you can actually get away with using a decent road pad, like even Bendix pads are pretty effective. Righto, pretty easy to fit these. It's just a matter of, first thing to do is put a wheel nut on so that you can actually get the rotor to seat properly on the hub. Makes it easier to put the pads, to put the calipers in. Just a light nip up, there we go. And then on with the rotor. They bolt, the front ones bolt onto the hubs without any problem. You don't need an adapter for them. They're a straightforward fit. The difference being with these 4-pot calipers is actually in the brake lines themselves. If you have a 2-pot front brake calipers and rotors on your car and you're going for the 4-pot upgrade, then the brake hoses are different. Now I'm going to leave this one on for the time being, this rubber hose on here. However, ultimately these will all be removed and we'll have braided lines through the whole car when we get to plumbing in the brake system. That's them all sorted. Just make sure that the backing plate's not touching the rotor anywhere. That's all good. I think that'll do for this episode. Thanks very much to Mark for helping out this weekend again. We've had a bit of great weather, which has made it a bit easier to work out here rather than being freezing cold. It's amazing that we're sort of halfway through autumn and still having great weather. Anyway, big ticket items covered, which is great, and also a whole bunch of small items as well, fiddly bits and pieces, tinkering around with the electrics inside the car and also under the engine bay, getting things like the battery cables done. They needed to be sorted out, and also like the vacuum booster hoses and a few of the temporary hoses connected to the fuel lines, and that's really done just to keep the dust out till we get the filters, and also need to put some new fuel hose on there as well. Fuse box in too. It's all getting a bit closer to being able to get it started, which is the goal. So I think in the next episode or two we'll be able to do a will it start episode, and fingers crossed it does start. Thanks very much for watching this episode. It's much appreciated to get the support, particularly considering that it takes so long to upload these videos. The last episode I did, the 20-minute episode, took about 8 to 10 hours. Our national broadband network is absolutely horrendous. Also great to see a few new subscribers. If you haven't subscribed already, please click the subscribe button and subscribe. That way, if you click the notification bell, you'll be notified when we upload new videos. We'll be able to get up to date more often, and also give us a like, a thumbs up if you really like this video. Thanks very much for watching. I'll catch you again on the next episode. Cheers.